Where there's a will, there's a way. You know, have you ever seen a video or a picture of something persevering through, you know, tough circumstances, like a plant growing through the crack in a brick or whatever? Where there's a will, there's a way. And this today is the ACME video that rounds out the performance triad. So welcome. My name is Gina Mollicone-Long. We're here to get you from A to ACME to your peak point. And so we're rounding out this video now. The last 3 videos have been about the performance triad. You know, focus on what you want, choose positive emotions, have a physiology of power. That's the being part. That dictates your choices for the most important part, which is the actions you take, because the actions you take precede your results. So you want to make sure you're in tip-top shape, that the state that you are in is in the best possible state before you take an action in the world. If you stick to that performance triad, focus on what you want, choose positive emotions, have physiology of power, then the choices that you're going to make for your actions are going to lead to your results. That's what this is all about. But taking action is absolutely critical. People make the big mistake in this work of doing the inner work without translating it to the outside. And the biggest problem that we see is that they can't convert. You have to take action. You have to take lots of action, and you have to course correct as quickly as possible. So, you know, fall down, get up, run, fall down, get up, run, lather, rinse, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. In The Secret of Successful Failing, the first book that I wrote, I created something called the feedback loop of life, which was basically just that. You know, you in life, you set yourself in a state, you take some actions, you get a result, you measure it. It's either what you wanted, yay, or you failed, you didn't get it. And so you go back, you take the feedback and you start again. That's called a feedback loop. You take the feedback, so you either get the result or you get feedback. Either way you win. So there's no shame, there's no bad. Either way. So you take the feedback and you feed it back to the beginning, which in Thurman Fleet's models, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So the beginning to the performance triad, focus, emotions, physiology. Okay, so how feedback? Well, remember, my background is in engineering. My thesis in my undergrad was on feedback control. So that's kind of how I made the leap into this work. Really, who would have thought that taking an engineering degree would have ended up here? But if you understand that all that we're doing here at greatnessu is mechanistic models, and we're helping you tweak the mechanism that is your mind to be able to get what you want, then it's kind of like engineering or re-engineering. And in fact, when I work with private clients around the world, and I take select, very few, I mean, a dozen a year at the most, and I curate personal breakthroughs. And it's a very specific process that I use. It's our 7th mechanism, the breakthrough process. And I help basically re-engineer the construct of their minds so that they can get the result that they are coming to me to create, the breakthrough result. So it does make sense to me, but that's how it works. So you have to set your state, take action, measure the outcome, and then feed it back or move on. It's no different, say, for example, than in your house, the thermostat would be a feedback mechanism, right? The thermostat would utilize feedback. So you set the set point to room temperature, right? So 20 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You set the set point. And then, so that's the state, you set it. And then you run the, you know, the life happens. So the house either heats up or cools down depending on where you live. So let's say you live in Canada, so it gets cold in your house. So then the thermostat measures the air a certain amount of time later, and it measures, it's only 18 degrees. Like, that means it sends that feedback back into the mechanism and says, turn on the heat. And then the furnace comes on and it heats and heats and heats and heats. And then eventually some amount of time later, it measures the air again. It goes, it's 22 degrees. That's too hot. Now shut it off. And that's a feedback loop. Now, nowhere in the feedback loop does the thermostat beat itself up or start crying or, you know, stay beaten or leave the furnace on or leave it off. It just uses the feedback to adjust the system until it gets the desired result. That's a feedback loop. So that's what you have to be doing in your life. You set your state, focus on what you want, choose positive emotions, have a physiology of power, and then take action, lots of action, and measure. Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? No. Feedback. Great. Do it again. Did you get it? Yes. Move on. That's it. For those of you that know anything about computer programming, it's the TOTE model: test, operate, test, exit. You're basically, in a very general sense, kind of like a computer. And so I'm not saying you are a computer, just so we're clear. I actually think you're so much more than that. But sometimes looking at something through the lens of a mechanistic model allows you to tweak things that make a massive difference. So then why doesn't everybody have what they want? Well, here's a basic model, and it's very basic. So if you're a coach, pay attention to this. And even if you're not a coach, or if you're a manager, or even if you're just somebody who wants better performance, pay attention to this. So I said this earlier, all increased performance is change. Remember, I said that earlier, right? So basically, right, you are at a current state, and then you change, and then you're at a new state. That's A to ACME, right? We're going for peak performance. But if you work with a coach, or if you are a coach, then what the coach will do, you'll go to the coach and you'll say, I want to, perform at this level. I want to perform at this ACME, at this new level. And so the coach will say, okay, well, what level are you currently at? I'm at this level. And then you will use tools and techniques that are designed to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Okay, so from the current level to the new level, and you use these tools and techniques, and you make this mistake. And every coach that I've ever taught, and every student that I've ever worked with, thinks it's the tools and the techniques that make the difference. And that is a massive mistake. It's not the tools and techniques that make the difference. It's the performance triad and the preparation that indicates whether the choices for behavior will be the ones that lead to the result. So everybody's out there thinking, I got the best coaching techniques. Now they're important because the techniques reflect whatever genre of coaching you do, or whatever you're trying to change. Like if it's health, use a health coach. If it's finance, use a money coach or a business coach. If it's relationships, relationship coach, or relationship books, or relationship tools, or whatever. It doesn't matter what you're trying to change. Remember, because all change is governed by the process of change. That's ACME number 1. So then why do some coaches work and some techniques work and some don't? Here's why. It has nothing to do with the technique. The technique is the final frontier. It's the final thing you do that affects the change. So we erroneously think that it's the only thing that affects the change. It's not. And in fact, what we teach at greatnessu to coaches and individuals is 2 really important components that we add to that model that make all the difference in the world. And that is these 2 components. So the number 1 thing we teach people to do before you would do any coaching technique on earth, you must loosen the grip on the current level. You must loosen their attachment to keeping things the way they are. You must disrupt and loosen. What this does is it increases the desire for change, and it also increases their willingness to try something new. So a disruption is absolutely necessary, right? The more you can disrupt the current model of reality, the more successful the tools that are going to be, just so we're clear, whether you're using a coach or a book or just a tool that somebody shared with you. So absolutely critical is this loosening. Now, the other thing that's really critical is once the change is made, right? So you got to loosen the grip, but once once that sets the state, right? Focus on what you want, choose positive emotions, physiology of power. And if you're stuck there, this is maybe where some therapy is going to help, let go of the way it is, let go of the past, change the past, and so on and so forth. Then you use the tools. That makes the change. But then remember, the walking baby on day 1, you're not going to send them off to the busiest street corner in your town. And so this is the other thing that's missing in most people's discipline, which is to integrate, right? To integrate these programs So they become dominant. This is wax on, wax off. So you have the change, you've made the change. Now you need to repeat, 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 repeat until you can't not do it that way. Then and only then, right? You'll be performing at that new level. You'll go from one level to the next. So it's these two things don't exist in many people, in many coaches. When I teach them this, their head explodes and their coaching success goes through the roof. The success of their clients goes through the roof if you just learn how to loosen the model before affecting any tools and integrate it into the dominant patterns so that you can maintain performance at the new level. So our ACME framework, this is this right here. Let me just step out of the frame here. This is everything that we teach. This is it right here. This one slide is greatnessu. This is all the programs we teach to coaches are built on this particular framework. All the coaches we teach to business leaders, managers, executives, CEOs are built on this framework. Everything's built on this framework because it's accelerated change mechanisms of excellence. And this framework encompasses all of our work so that all of those ACME mechanisms, number one, the process of change. Number two, the cycle of results. Number three, the performance triad. And the further ones we're still going to talk about. They all become the foundation on which you build the model of knowing how to change whatever it is you're trying to change in your life, and knowing that you have very specific steps you can take in order to get there. So that's the ACME framework. And remember, and we're going to talk about this in a video all by itself. You only need two requirements to change anything in your life: desire to change and willingness to give it what it takes. If you got something out of this video, please hit subscribe. By now, you should be a subscriber. And like it, comment it, share it with, proliferate it, post it, do whatever it is you do to let people know that this information is making a difference for you so it can make a difference for them. So we can all be revealing greatness all over the planet. Thanks so much.